Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. So today we have some Big Brother Celebrity Season 3 updates. I wanted to speak on a couple of more details regarding some things that Spoiler Guy has reported. He's been pretty accurate and spot on with a lot of the spoilers that have taken place thus far, in terms of, Chris Kattan wanting to leave since day one and ultimately, being able to leave. And he said the following in regards to Chris Kattan going, and that was, Chris Kattan was allowed to call a family member prior to leaving. And, before there was like a final decision and everything else. And because of the team that Chris Kattan had, because remember, people kept saying, well, if there was all these issues and things happening, why couldn't Chris Kattan, be let go at this point earlier on? And, Spoiler Guy originally had said because of money, because you get a certain, whatever the fee that the celebrity negotiated to be on the show, if you void that contract, if you break that, then you don't get paid your fee. But due to how Chris Kattan's team worked on certain stipulations and certain things, and because he has an injury, related leave as well, he's going to be able to get his full guaranteed money that he agreed upon. So that is good for him. Also, some other updates for Spoiler Guy. And it's funny because now Spoiler Girl, she is like trying to take credit of little things, and Spoiler Guy has been kind of right on the money on everything, and it's just hilarious. But he did say that production is getting sick of Todrick's antics and diva demands, despite Grodner's love for Misha. I highly doubt they will both make it to the end if production has any say. I don't know what's going on with Todrick. He's kind of got HOH-itis, like how Chris Kirkpatrick did the first week that Misha was HOH, how he was just like planted and glued to the HOH room, fading in with the furniture because he was in there so much. But Todrick has this deluded sense of importance that he's running the show, and he is yet to win anything. And even if you want to call, like, coming in second place isn't good enough. You have to win something. And that is something that Misha, Chris Kirkpatrick, Carson, and Shayna has been able to do, and not Todrick. So I'm not sure where his deluded thoughts are coming from, or why he feels like he's untouchable because he's Misha's number one, but that doesn't mean that he's exempt from getting out of here. Also, so 3 days ago, Spoiler Guy had said that production wants Chris Kattan and Todd Bridges gone next, and it just so happens that Todd might be one of the replacement noms. So who knew? More on that a little bit later. But back to Chris Kattan, he also still will get his jury vote, so he'll still be back finale night to vote on who is going to be the winner of season 3. And like I said, already still is going to get the paid, the full amount of whatever his fee was. And basically, Spoiler Guy said that his team did a great job with the contract, and that the in-house doctor that's inside the Big Brother house, gave approval that him leaving didn't void the agreement. And so it looks like last week things were not on good terms, but, by the time Chris Kattan left, everything was amicable. So, yeah. So then there were some people who were wondering whether or not Todrick could convince Misha to put up Chris Kirkpatrick and backdoor him versus, putting up Todd. And, essentially Spoiler Guy said that production wants Todd Bridges out next. That if, Todrick is able to get Misha to flip to Chris, that the, DR, they're going to flip it back, to Todd before the ceremony. They're going to make sure that Todd is the replacement. So that'll be interesting. There's just been so much going on, you guys. So I was so mad yesterday because again, we have all these feeds that are being out and just coming in and out at random. And so then finally the feeds came on, yesterday during the show, like I had said in a previous video, and then it went out again, and then just kept coming in and out at random because Todrick was having this delusional conversation with Misha. Now, I will say that there were certain things that he was right about. Ultimately he was saying that Chris Kilpatrick and Shayna, they're hiding in different rooms, that they're scheming. Because Misha, for some reason, believes Shayna. They had some type of talk either during the video yesterday or right after the video that, if she were to win or whoever, that they would take down Cynthia off the block, and that, she wants to show good faith with Cynthia and that she's not against her and all this and that. And so, like, Misha believes this for some reason. She's, like, convinced. And for whatever reason, she is not taking Todrick seriously. Like, I think with Shayna winning veto, Misha finally realizes that her HOH reign really is irrelevant, because pretty much the people who are going to vote do not all have allegiance to her. So if there's a scenario where Cynthia comes down, then, Cynthia, Lamar, and Shayna, and possibly Chris Kilpatrick all can be a voting block and vote the same way and not take out, Carson, and vice versa. If they take down Carson and somebody else goes up next to Cynthia, Misha and Todrick are under the impression that they'll just vote out Cynthia, but in reality, they would just vote out whoever's sitting next to her. So in that case, that is why the options at this point really are either Todd, Lamar, or Chris Kilpatrick, because Misha's not going to risk putting up Todrick, even though it would be great if she did, but she'll never put up her number one ally. That's not going to happen. And so, Lamar is not going to go up because Misha's against putting him up for whatever reason. So, and then speaking of Lamar, Spoiler Guy also reported that he thinks, or production thinks, that now Lamar potentially can be their finale night. That he can potentially get there at the end, because remember at the beginning, Lamar Odom kept threatening to quit, but now he has stopped. And they think that his gameplay was playing stupid, playing dumb on purpose, playing clueless. But now they think that he's in game mode. And that's going to take him to the end. So more to come on that. So we will see if that takes place. But a lot happened, Cynthia had a conversation with Chris because, she felt betrayed by him. She felt that he already knew that her and Carson were going up. And if he was telling her all of these things about them working together, why didn't he just give them a heads up? Versus trying to play coy and play vague. Like, it wasn't like this big secret or this big thing. Like, obviously they don't work with Misha, so what options did they have if they know that Misha's cool with all of the guys and has something going on with Todd and Todrick and Chris Kilpatrick? Like, there's not many options. And also, to an extent, Lamar Odom. So that was pretty interesting. So now the gameplay is to convince Misha to put up Todd, and that whoever is there, whether it is Carson or whether it is Cynthia, that the other person's going to get voted out and that they will keep Todd. Except for the plan is actually to vote out Todd, because Chris Kilpatrick doesn't care for him. Shayna's not working with him. Lamar is, he's ready to start competing and take out the biggest threats. He's in competition mode finally. And also, whoever it is of Cynthia and Carson that comes off the block. So that's 4 votes right there. Meanwhile, Todrick, seems to think that whoever between Carson and Cynthia is going to go. He seems to think that he can convince Misha that they need to backdoor Chris Kilpatrick, who is Misha's other close ally, and I'm just not seeing it. I am just not seeing it at all. So yeah. So then the conversation was, Cynthia said, we finally have like a little bit of power to where we can make a big move to some degree to where it would shift back to have the numbers on the side, because you have to realize not only if Cynthia or Carson come off the block, that is going to give them an additional vote to have an impact on who goes this Friday. But also the impact of this is the HOH comp. Like, this is the time to strike because Misha won't be eligible to play for HOH. So that really the only person they have to worry about winning if Todd is evicted tomorrow is Todrick. As long as anybody else wins that's not named Todrick, then they can, take their shot at Todrick and Misha. And I think, honestly, Todrick might be next to go. Depending, if he doesn't win HOH, I think he's gone. If he doesn't win HOH or power veto, I think he's done. Because there's nothing else. Like, he either has to win or go. So I am hoping somebody else wins. And, I'm hoping it's Carson, Cynthia, Lamar, or Chris Kilpatrick again. So that way they can take their shot and they can get out. I think Misha's going to be a little bit harder to get out. But I think starting the process now of starting to disarm her and taking away her closest votes and people that would, do her dirty work, I think that's going to eventually leave Misha vulnerable to where she's going to have to just essentially comp out to the end. So that's going to be that. But also, and I think Cynthia, she sees through Chris playing both sides, Chris Kilpatrick playing both sides. So I think that's why she felt away. But then Shayna has seemed to work her magic on Lamar Odom. So now she feels that Lamar Odom has now left under the Misha spell. But I really don't think he was necessarily with Misha. I think he was with Misha in the Athletes Alliance just by default at the time, because he didn't have anybody, initially really that he was truly working with. So it kind of, it just fell into his lap when they were talking. But I never felt that he was as solidified in that alliance as Misha and Todrick were making it out to be. It was kind of like they just brought him into the fold and he was like, okay. But I never got from him that he was like totally in this athlete alliance, because you have to think about it. He's still a competitor at the end of the day. He's an NBA champion. He's won an NBA championship. So he understands that this at the end of the day is still a competition. So he'll be cool with you to an extent, but if he sees that you're a threat to him winning, then guns are blazing, the gloves come off, everything else. So I think that's where we are. I think that is where we are, where now Lamar is starting to get a read of the house, even though he's still playing dumb to certain people, but he's getting a read of the house. And so now he sees, okay, Misha and Todrick have too much power, have too much control, and that needs to shift, or it's going to be a complete steamroll and nobody else is going to have an opportunity. So I am glad that Shayna has kind of pulled him in. So, but yeah, pretty much the consensus is with, the rest of the house is anybody that, anybody but Todrick can be HOH. And that's essentially, where things lie, because Shayna and Chris think that they're going to go up if Todrick is HOH, which is facts. So, and then there was a funny exchange, because for some reason, Misha really is convinced that Shayna is going to keep her word and take down Cynthia. And if you're a gamer, if you're a true Big Brother fan, like, why are you even entertaining this? You're not close with Shayna at all. Like, you don't like her. So why would you believe anything that she's telling you? Why would you believe that she would take down Cynthia over Carson when Carson is the bigger threat? And has already won a competition, has a good social game. Everybody likes him in and outside the house. Like, why would you believe Shayna that she's going to take down Cynthia? See, this is what I mean with Misha, is I think she is so stubborn. And, you know, she thought so much about, okay, I can just comp beast my way out. But she finally realized and had a moment where she realized that she's screwed, because her HOH is about to be compromised, which whatever happens with this veto ceremony, and Shayna likely pulls somebody off. And then the other side of it is Misha's social game is trash. So even if Misha does get to the end, even if she is in finale night, even if she is one of Grotner's favorites, the cast doesn't like Misha. That's the issue. And they don't like Todrick much either, but they really don't like Misha either. So that is where she is screwed if she is in one of the final chairs, because they aren't seeing it for her. And I think Todrick thinks that he can win over Misha if he's sitting there too, but I don't think they're going to be a final two. I think Todrick's gone, unless he wins HOH. I truly do. I think he's next to go. But there was a funny exchange, because I think Lamar might actually really be in a final two with Todd. But the problem is they're not on the same side of the game. They are not on the same page. And so Lamar was trying to tell, you know, Todd, like, hey, whatever rumor that you're hearing that Cynthia's coming down, that's not true. It's actually Carson. And Todd refuses to believe Lamar. And it is a funny thing. Lamar was trying so hard to be like, no, it's Carson that's coming down. And Todd's like, no, it's Cynthia. And he's like, I don't. And so he's like, no, it's Carson. And Todd's like, I don't think so. So he is completely, you know, again, just completely caught up in his own. And this is why he's going to go tomorrow if he's the replacement nom, is because he is so stuck in his ways and he is so stubborn. Just like Misha is, except for he just hasn't won anything, you know, as it pertains to the show. But he's so stubborn in thinking that, you know, his way is always right. And you saw him make a fool of himself yesterday during the competition, during the HOH comp, where he thought, okay, if I just take off my stuff, my ski outfit really quickly, I'm going to win. Except for they explained in the game that your time is going to, you know, double, quadruple, go 10 times the speed, go 30 times the speed and everything else. And he just completely disregarded it and had, you know, one of the worst scores. So it was just hilarious. But yeah. So yeah, that's what that is. But yeah, so the thing is, you know, Cynthia is aware that Todd is mad at her because she voted to keep Teddy over him and that sort of thing and voted Todd out. So, you know, they shouldn't be counting on Cynthia to save Todd again. So yeah. But then it's like, I think Shayna and Chris Kilpatrick disagree on, you know, the impact of Chris Kattan. And I don't know if they necessarily know. We never knew game-wise where Chris Kattan's loyalties lie. We only knew that he was actually close to Misha. So I don't know technically which side he would be a number for, because if they were scared to take him off of the block because they didn't know where his vote was going, then how can you say that it is, how can you determine, you know, the impact of Chris Kattan's vote if you didn't know where he stood? So I found that to be very interesting. So now Chris is finally saying to Cynthia that he chooses her side and trying to reassure her that he's not flip-flopping anymore. and all this and that. But yeah, that is where it is. And that basically telling Cynthia that if he's the replacement mom, that he's gonna end up leaving. So they have to put up Todd. So Todd has to be the replacement. So so Shayna is still blaming herself about, not using the power of veto, the first one that she won on Monday. And she thinks that influenced Chris Kattan, really trying to amp things up, that he was so upset to the point of just finding any way that he could to leave. And so, Carson was trying to tell her that it wasn't her fault and this and that. And so, then Misha and Todrick were talking forever in this HOH room. And it's hilarious to me because it's like the rest of the cast, they're drinking wine, they're having a good time, they're, having fun. We hear them, but they would not give us the cameras to them. And I don't know why this thing where we can't see the house guests drinking, like, it's so weird because you only give them like barely a glass anyways when it's all said and done. So that is weird. But Misha's starting to feel a certain way about Chris, like starting to be skeptical of Chris. However, Todrick keeps saying that they don't need his vote, but Todrick's nervous about the future. But if production prefers Chris Kirkpatrick over Todrick, there's not much Todrick can do. But it was just funny, the back and forth between Misha and Todrick, because he was really trying to push so hard of backdooring Chris Kirkpatrick, and Misha wasn't having it. And they're so convinced that it's going to be Cynthia coming down. And then they said, what if we can convince Shayna to take down Carson? And it's just hilarious because it's like, well, she's doing that anyways. So no need to convince her of that. So, because it's like this whole time that they're trying to run through all these scenarios while everybody else is bonding, and they realize that, their social game and everything else is trash, they're still isolating themselves in the HOH room in the midst of all this. So it's just funny. But, I think at this point, really it's just the fireworks are going to be this veto ceremony and the live eviction. Like, I cannot wait until tomorrow's episode, because I think Misha and Todrick are going to be blindsided, which might have an opposite effect, which might, make Todrick do worse in the HOH comp. We don't know. So then it was interesting because finally Misha and Chris had a talk. Chris Kirkpatrick, about everything, because Misha's parting comments to Todrick basically was she wants to have a conversation with Chris Kirkpatrick to see if he answers or says or does anything shady in their conversation, and then she'll put him up, even though I don't think even with that she's going to do that, because if production likes Chris Kirkpatrick, it's just not going to happen. But it was weird because Todrick told her not to talk to him. And I'm like, well, why would you care at this point? What influence do you have, Todrick? And this week is going to end up being a flop if you have pushed for the past couple of weeks to take out Carson and Carson doesn't go. Like, this HOH reign is a complete flop. So anyways, Misha talks to Chris. And essentially, she's trying to confirm if Chris will vote out Carson if he's still on the block. And if he can't confirm that, then she will backdoor him. But it's just funny because their conversation kind of starts off with, Chris saying, why is Todrick being so weird? Misha thinks that they just have a miscommunication and a misunderstanding, but I don't. I think neither likes each other because both of them do not like their closeness to Misha. Chris Kirkpatrick, he fangirls over Misha, and then he's like in lust with Shayna. So it's like those are the two women that like he wants on either side of him. And Todrick is in the way of that. He likes Misha for what she can bring in terms of being a shield and being good at physical comps. And then he likes Shayna because Shayna can also win, but they have like a really good bond and a really good rapport with each other. So there's that. But it's just funny because they're, trying to go back and forth, and Misha, she just keeps trying to reiterate. She's like, okay, I need you to confirm that you are going to vote out Carson if, we put up somebody from the Athletes Alliance or one of our votes or that sort of thing. And so he's all like, well, why would I do that? I would be on an island if I like did something differently or whatever else. So, Misha was like, well, yeah, obviously that doesn't make sense. I just needed to hear it from you. So it's just funny because I don't think that Chris Kirkpatrick did a good job of convincing Misha where he stands, but I think Misha is so tunnel vision and she's so stubborn that she is not thinking rationally because she's so frazzled by everything that Todrick told her that she's just taking whatever Chris Kirkpatrick says at face value, and she's not questioning it or questioning what, he isn't saying. And so she's like, saying she'd feel bad if he accidentally got sent home and all this and that. And so Chris is like playing it like, I'm looking out for you. And so then she asks him flat out, you're not going to vote out Todd, right? And Chris says, we have a thing. So it's like, I just can't. So, but then Chris says everybody in the house would, be an idiot to think that you guys don't have a final two with her and Todrick. And that Todd also tells Chris that they have a final two. And Lamar, tells him that he's safe and this and that. And then he's in the Athlete Alliance. And he says he can't trust anyone in this game. So, then she's trying to, ask Chris, does he think that Shayna's going to use the veto? And, Chris is like, well, Shayna's just talking about all kinds of, different scenarios and this and that. And I said, if you just want to be safe, just don't use it at all. But he said, I work with her. He said, but I'm not close like you and Todrick are. So again, just another like little jab. So we will see ultimately what happens. We will see what happens from there. But that's essentially it. That's really essentially where we are. We need to get to this veto meeting so that Shayna can, pull off the shocker and, completely shake Misha and Todrick up and pull off Carson. And, we'll see what Misha does, but Misha should be putting up Todd as the replacement nom no matter what. And then she's going to be under the impression that the Athletes Alliance is going to save Todd and that Cynthia will go since her and Cynthia aren't working together, except for plot twist. Todd is actually going to be the one to go because Lamar will vote him out. Shayna will vote him out. Carson will definitely vote him out. And Chris Kirkpatrick's going to vote him out. So really, it would only just be, Todrick that is going to, be the lone wolf there. So that'll be interesting. It's kind of interesting because it's basically the entire house against Todrick and Misha. So, except for Cynthia, they need to work on Cynthia. They need to work on the fact that Todrick was throwing her name out there to be a replacement mom. They need to, expose Todrick's game, that he is not her ally in any stretch of the imagination. So I think that's really everything as far as a feeds update goes. So I'll see if anything happens today. I hope the veto ceremony is today, so that way we can just really get into it. and see the fireworks, see the aftermath of Shayna shocking Misha and Todrick and pulling off Carson instead of Cynthia, and just completely, shaking it up. But I think either way, Misha has to put up Todd. Like, she just has to. So, because she cannot risk losing Chris Kirkpatrick. She cannot risk that at all. Even though I don't think he would go, but she can't risk it. So she's going to have to put up Todd, and she's going to have to lose Todd. And it is what it is. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon.